Hey guys, how we doing? So we're back on another Swag Guy video. Review! And it's How Strong Is. And it's a continuation. This is a continuing video. We reacted to How Strong Is Obito. Awesome video. Swag Guy went through all the different... Excuse me, that was my better. Different versions of Obito, how strong they were. And then he was like, look, this video would go on forever if I then went on to Juubito. And so he was like, I'll make that into a separate video. Here's the video. So this is... Damn it, still finding this cold. This is How Strong Is Six Paths Obito. Also known as... I mean, this isn't the title, that would be a real long title. Juubito. Because he has the Jubi. And oh, come on, you watch Naruto, you know what it is. How Strong Is Six Paths Obito?
How's it going, everybody? Swaggy.
How's it going,
here.
Swaggy?
Welcome to today's video, which, as you know, if you're a regular viewer of mine, is a follow-up to my last video. If you're new to the channel and you haven't seen the last video, then I'd recommend you go watch it first. But I mean, you don't have to by any means, since this is kind of a different topic entirely. Anyway, so in my last video, I talked about all of the various versions of Obito that we see over the course of the series, but I wasn't able to discuss Juubito due to time restraints. The video was already over 22 minutes long by the time I got to the end of
basically my intro.
And I was also running behind on uploading it, so rather than rush the Juubito section to get the video out more quickly, I asked everybody if they'd like to see a separate video about Juubito, and I got an overwhelming amount of support for the idea in the comments. So here we are. Today we're going to be taking a look at Sage of Six Paths Obito, or as he's also commonly known, Juubito. So
there we go.
This kind of goes without saying, but Juubito is way more powerful than any previous version of Obito.
My God.
Complete and total night and day difference. Now that's saying a lot, because Obito was already one of the strongest ninja of all time at the start of the Fourth Shinobi World War, so you'd assume that stuffing the Jubi inside of him and giving him access to all of this crazy Six Paths nonsense would make him basically unstoppable, and you'd be 100% correct in doing so. After he becomes the Jubi Jinchuriki, there isn't a single person left on planet Earth, with the arguable exception of Might Guy, who stands a chance of surviving a serious fight with Obito. Now some of you may be thinking to yourselves, understandably, that I'm giving Obito too much credit here, so hold that thought, we'll get back to it in just a second, but first there's something I'd like to go over. While I won't be segmenting the video into separate sections like I did with the last video, there are two forms of Juubito that we need to talk about. The first one we see is one I'll be referring to as unstable Juubito. And in the brief period that he's in this state, Obito is substantially weaker than he is when he gains full control over the Ten Tails' power. It's something that I'll discuss in more detail later on in the video, but just keep it in mind until then. Anyway, going back to what I was saying about Obito being stronger than anybody who could have potentially challenged him, I don't think too many people would disagree with me if I were to say that at the time of Juubito's first appearance, aside from Obito, the two strongest people on the battlefield were Madara and Hashirama. So bearing that in mind, let's take a look at chapter 638 of the manga, which isn't where Juubito made his first appearance, but it is the first time we actually get to see him do anything.
Which volume
After Obito becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki and transforms into his weird white-skinned scaly form, Hashirama takes one look at him and he's like, okay, yeah, no, you can't let this happen, and he busts out the Gracious Deity Gates and starts stacking them on top of Obito. For those of you who don't remember, the Gracious Deity Gates were these gigantic wooden gates that Hashirama used to keep the Ten Tails stuck in place. Just one gate per tail was enough to restrict the Jubi's movements, but obviously Obito isn't quite as big as the Ten Tails is, so Hashirama had to take a different approach here. Instead of being forced to evenly distribute multiple gates across a large area, Hashirama's just able to stack like 10 to 15 gates right on top of Obito's back. And like 2 seconds later, all the gates explode. Obito disintegrates them without even moving. Right after this, he creates these big chakra arms, similar to the ones that Naruto uses when in Jubi chakra mode, and uses them to grab a hold of the gigantic 4 Crimson Rays formation barrier created by the Hokage. And yes, I mean, he actually physically grabs onto the barrier itself, and then squeezes it on all 4 sides so tightly that the whole thing just goes and falls apart. And Obito causes this to happen like it's the easiest thing he's ever done in his life. If that's not enough to convince you that he's stronger than Hashirama, shortly after this happens, Hashirama looks at Obito and flat out says, yep, he's stronger than I am. Before anybody says, well, Hashirama could have just been being modest, man, you never know, Hiruzen immediately agrees with him.
No offense, but it appears so.
Even Madara starts to get a little bit shaken up after seeing how powerful Obito has become. And if that's still not enough evidence for you, immediately after all of this is said, Obito blitzes Hashirama and Tobirama before they even have enough time to figure out what just happened. Even Minato, who was standing right there when it happened, was unable unable to do anything and actually complements Obito's speed. So in just one chapter, we get pretty concrete evidence
That's a really
that Obito
good
is
summary
stronger
of
than the two most powerful people in the area, and that a team of all of the first 4 Hokage have no idea how to deal with him. We also learn that he isn't in the most stable state of mind, since he doesn't even recognize his own name when Minato says it to him. This may not have any direct effect on his power, but it should hypothetically mean that he's not able to use his chakra as efficiently as he would be able to if he was in a stable state of mind, which could potentially make his attacks less powerful and threatening, since the chakra used to fuel them is less focused and refined. That might sound a lot like headcanon, but what I'm basically trying to say is if Obito's too brain dead to properly understand how to use his chakra, that should affect the quality of his ninjutsu and any taijutsu that he uses chakra to amplify. Some of the other things he accomplishes before stabilizing the Jubi's chakra include surviving Tobirama's tandem explosive tags without a scratch, charging through Hiruzen's field of shuriken shadow clones and blowing up half his body before he can react, casually tossing Gamakichi through the air, blitzing and nearly killing Sasuke and Jubi chakra mode Naruto, and finally nuking the battlefield without actually meaning to. This is all pretty crazy stuff, as I'm sure most of you will agree, and he accomplishes all of it, like I said earlier, with very little control over his chakra. Eventually, of course, Obito manages to force the Jubi to calm down. We get this weird scene where we see his body being torn apart inside of his head, and he slowly pieces himself back together, and in the process shows everybody that he has the mental fortitude necessary to fight off the maddening influence of the Jubi, which I think is a pretty impressive accomplishment in its own right. Anyway, Sage of Six Paths Obito, or stabilized Juubito I guess, makes his first appearance on page 14 of chapter 640, and he appears to be a lot more powerful than the previous form of Juubito was. It's not as massive of a difference as the one per se between War Arc Obito and unstable Juubito, but it's still a pretty noticeable one. The first and most notable difference present between these two forms of Juubito is the fact that one of them has access to a lot more tools. After fully taming the Jubi, Obito begins wielding a staff, and we also see a handful of truth-seeking orbs begin floating behind his back. The other major difference present between these two forms of Obito is something I already briefly went over, and that's that after he stabilizes the Jubi's power, Obito shouldn't be a brainless idiot anymore. He should be able to think more reasonably and clearly, he should have more control over his chakra, stuff like that. Stuff that doesn't necessarily correlate directly to a power increase, but stuff that nonetheless makes him a lot more difficult to deal with in combat. Some other extraneous information of note is that at this point, Obito is completely immune to taking any kind of damage from any ninjutsu that aren't imbued with nature energy, and he can also use the truth-seeking orbs for both offensive and defensive purposes. Now, maybe I don't need to say this, but both of these things are very important. The first bit about him being immune to all non-senjutsu-based ninjutsu is particularly important, because there are no exceptions to this rule whatsoever. Like, for example, Obito gets hit directly with a Rasen Shuriken created by Kyuubi Chakra Mode Naruto, and amped by Sasuke's Inferno-style flame control, and it doesn't leave a scratch on him. I'm not exaggerating, by the way. Tobirama flat out says it has no effect at all. And it's not like Sage Mode is Obito's kryptonite or anything. Like, he's still perfectly capable of dealing with anybody who can use Senjutsu. For example, when Naruto learned how to stack Sage Mode on top of Kyuubi Chakra Mode, he and Minato both enter their gigantic Ninetales avatar states, and they make this humongous combination Rasengan and try to slam it right into Obito's face. And you'd think that this sort of thing would be at least a little bit effective, but it doesn't do anything. Obito just creates a barrier with his truth-seeking orbs, and the barrier is so strong that it sends Naruto and Minato both flying all the way across the entire length of his 6 Crimson Ray formation barrier. That's also something that I should mention, by the way. Earlier in the video, I brought up how unstable Juubito was able to disperse the 4 Crimson Ray formation barrier created by the Hokage. Just to further prove how much more powerful he is than everybody around him, Obito creates an even stronger version of the same barrier called the 6 Crimson Rays formation, which is even bigger, and of course, as the name implies, is shaped like a hexagon instead of a square. But yeah, as I was saying, even after Naruto enters Sage Mode, on top of already being in Kyuubi Chakra Mode, and injects a bunch of nature energy into this obnoxiously large Rasengan, it doesn't do anything to Obito, and actually almost ends up backfiring. Like, the 6 Crimson Rays formation is gigantic. It's big enough to hold all that remains of the allied shinobi forces, and they're sent sliding from one end of the barrier to the other. Also, mentioning the barrier size reminds me that when Obito first created it, he did so with the intent of wiping out all that remained of the allied shinobi forces, and everyone was pretty sure that that was exactly what was going to happen. Even the Hokage were fairly certain that there wasn't anything they were going to be able to do to stop him, and that's because he was about to launch 4 tin-tailed Biju bombs inside the barrier at the same time. The only reason everybody was able to survive the explosion created by these 4 Bijudama is because they didn't get hit by it in the first place. Minato and Naruto worked together to teleport everybody outside of the barrier, but had they not done that, everybody likely would have been killed.
Everyone
all
would have
by
died.
just a single attack from Obito. So not only is he borderline invincible, but he's also able to wipe out enormous groups of people all at the same time, and with the greatest of ease too, since he only has to use 1 attack to do it. If that wasn't enough overkill, Juubito is also really, really fast. Shortly after Obito enters his 6th path stage, Jubi Chakra Mode Minato tries to blitz him, and it doesn't work. Obito reacts,
which is a big deal, he's so fast.
Minato's attack, cuts off one of his arms, and manages to attach an explosive truth-seeking orb to his body before he can teleport away. Now this next example isn't as impressive, but I think it's really funny, so I wanted to mention it anyway. So while everybody's looking for an opening in order to potentially damage Obito, Sasuke kind of runs forward and tries to hit him with an Amaterasu. And Obito blocks it before the flames even manifest in the first place. Like in the manga, we see the camera focus on Sasuke's Sharingan in one panel, and then in the next panel, it instantly shifts to a shot of Obito blocking the Amaterasu. We don't see it being created, we don't see it moving towards Obito or anything. So it's implied that the flames just kind of spawn there right in front of him, and Obito's able to block them anyway. The anime makes what happens a bit clearer than the manga does. In it, we see Obito start spinning his staff as Sasuke prepares to perform the Amaterasu, and then he just holds it out in front of him in order to block it. It's explained in both versions that one of the main reasons he's able to do this is that he can see the chakra that's going to be used to perform the Amaterasu being gathered in Sasuke's eye, which allows him to anticipate the attack before it actually happens. This makes his instantaneous reaction to it seem a bit less ridiculous, but I still think it's pretty insane. Again, not as crazy as him making Biju Minato look like a slowpoke, but still something worth mentioning to be sure. Later on, near the tail end of the fight, Naruto and Sasuke agree that it's probably best if they try to find some way to use Senjutsu against Obito since it is his only weakness. Sasuke ends up using a full-body Susanoo powered up by Jugo's nature energy-based Kekkei Genkai, and Naruto uses the same Sage Mode-enhanced Kyuubi avatar that I mentioned earlier in the video. Even still, they don't cause much trouble for Obito at all. He's able to easily overpower both of them on multiple occasions. The first thing they try is firing both a Senjutsu-enhanced Bijudama and a Senjutsu-enhanced Susanoo arrow at Obito at the same time, and it doesn't work. He blocks the combo attack with one of his truth-seeking orb barriers, and even though it sustains a little bit of damage, Obito himself remains completely unharmed. Now, I'd like to remind everybody that one of Naruto's Biju bombs was able to cancel out 5 other Biju bombs being shot at him at the same time, and that was without the extra power provided by Sage Mode. I'd also like to remind everybody that Sage Mode makes Naruto a lot stronger. Just to prove my point, imagine base Naruto fighting against the 6-pack or the reanimated 3rd Raikage, and you'll get what I'm saying. So for Obito to have blocked and sustained no damage from a substantially more powerful version of the same attack and another attack of similar power, while both were being fueled by the only energy source that he was weak to at the time, I mean, that's pretty absurd. I think everybody can agree on that, right? After this doesn't work, they try to engage him in big air quotes, close quarters combat, but Obito's able to avoid every attack they throw at him, and the one time they do seem to corner him, he just blocks their attacks with his truth-seeking orb shield. Obito immediately responds to their attempt to attack him by grabbing both of them while they're still in their Kurama avatar and Susanoo states, respectively, with gigantic black chakra arms, even bigger than the ones he used to pop the Hokage's 4 Crimson Rays formation. Naruto and Sasuke are only able to actually start holding their own against Obito by combining the Kyuubi avatar with Sasuke's Susanoo, while both are still being powered up by different kinds of Senjutsu. Even then, that's not enough. The only reason they actually beat Obito is, as it's stated in the manga, because his resolve is briefly weakened, giving them a short opportunity to overpower him for just long enough to extract the Jubi from his body. So in other words, Obito actually loses to Talk no Jutsu. Naruto ends up beating him because he makes him feel bad about being a bad guy. Since how dare you be bad? I'm sorry. No! By the strength of Obito's will, it's very likely that had this not happened, he would have killed Naruto and Sasuke and then gone on to massacre all that remained of the allied shinobi forces, so the loss that he sustained here wasn't really a fair one. Of course, there are plenty of characters who would be able to legitimately beat this form of Obito, like end-of-series Naruto and Sasuke, Kaguya, Sage of 6 Paths Madara, Hagoromo, and arguably Guy after opening the 8th gate. Aside from them and anyone else in or above the same tier of power, though, there isn't anyone who'd be able to survive for very long in a one-on-one fight against Juubito. He's just too strong. He can fly, he's basically invincible, he's faster than practically everyone aside from the the people that I said were stronger than him, of course. He can nullify all ninjutsu. He has the Rinnegan, and by extension, all of the abilities that it gives a person access to. He can summon the Divine Tree, and that's something that I didn't even mention. He can wrap the Divine Tree's branches around people's bodies and start draining their chakra. I don't know if the chakra enters his own personal chakra supply, or if it's just fed into the tree, but regardless, plenty of people died after being subjected to this for long enough, so I don't think it really matters. On top of all of this, he doesn't seem to have any real exploitable weaknesses. I mean, the only drawback that came from Obito becoming the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails was him losing the ability to use Kamui. And that's another thing, by the way. He was so strong that Kishimoto had to nerf him, because you and I both know that if Obito could do all of this other crazy nonsense, and he could phase through people's
Jesus
attacks,
Christ.
there's just no way he would have lost to anybody. So all in all, he's really strong, one of the strongest Naruto characters ever. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh man, you're just wanking him, but I feel like in this case,
come on, look at everything he just
anyhow, thanks as always for watching the video all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. If you have an idea for a video topic you'd like me to cover in the future, leave it in the comments below, or send it to me on Twitter, or however you feel like contacting me. Make sure you have a great rest of the day, and until my next video, I'll talk to you later. Swagkage out. Bye.
I want a what if Zabuza never died video. Because he's my favorite. What if Zabuza, yeah, then what if, oh, I don't know. That was a good video though. But it's like, just, you can't argue with that. Like, come on, the amount of stuff he just put down there was just like, he is insane. Insane in the membrane. Wicked, wow, wicked, yeah. It was awesome. I love these Swagkage videos. They are boss. He has some mad abilities. Like, the True Secret Orbs are just crazy powerful anyway, and then Minato was like the fastest dude. He just like blocked him and took his arm. It's like, well, okay, that's pretty fast. So, you know, bing bang boom, you down, son. Is, yeah. That was good. So, yeah, cool. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.